Alright guys, so I am going to go over the fraction practice packet with you right now. The first thing that I want to point out is you need to read the instructions, or I mean the directions rather. You want to make sure you pick out any important information. You need to know exactly what you need to do in each section. So I just want to show you an example of what I'm talking about. So this says simplify the following fractions into lowest terms. If you're anything like me, you like to highlight the important things that you need to know. You need to make sure each fraction is simplified into lowest terms, or else you are not going to get credit for that. It will be wrong, so it needs to be in lowest terms. All right, I'm going to zoom in on the first few. So let's start with number 1. 3/12. This one should be easy. So let's look at what our greatest common factors are for these two numbers. So 3, we have 1 and 3. Pretty straightforward, simple, right? 12, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So our greatest common factor here is 3. I want to divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So my answer is 1/4. Okay, number 2. 4/16. So our factors of 4 are 1, 2, and 4. Factors of 16 are 1, 2, 4. 4 times itself gives you 16, so 2 times 8 gives me 16, and 1 times 16. So those are the factors. Our greatest common factor is 4. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So again, our simplest terms here is 1/4. Okay, let's look at number 3. 5 and 25. 5 doesn't have many factors, it's just 1 and 5 because it's a prime number. But 25, we have 1, 5. 5 times itself gives us 25. So actually those are the only factors of 25, 1, 5, and 25. So our greatest one that we have in common here is 5. Let's divide both sides by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So 1/5 is our answer. All right, 10/25. So we have 1, 2, 5, and 10. And 25 again, we just did this last time, so I'm just going to actually copy over those factors. Pretty simple. And our greatest common factor here again is 5. So we're going to divide both sides by 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So 2/5 is the simplified version of 10/25. All right, let's go down to number 5. All right, 16/20. 16's factors are 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. And 20 is 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20. The highest one they have in common seems to be 4. So let's divide both sides by 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So our answer is 4/5. If you're doing this the same way I am, you can see it gets kind of crowded. So what I would do is once you get your answer, like I'm doing, just circle it to make sure that, you know, if this 4 were here, that may get confused in the fraction. So you're going to want to just make sure you circle the exact fraction that you mean to be the answer. All right, so number 6, 14/49. So the factors of 14 is 1, 2, 7, and 14. And 49, we have 1, 7, and 49. And that's it. All right, so the greatest common factor is 7. Divide both sides by 7. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 49 divided by 7 is 7. 2/7 is our answer. Remember, you know, you got any of these wrong, you might want to go back and rewind and just watch me do it one more time. Okay, so 27 over 36, we have 1, 3, 9, and 27. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This one has a lot of factors. 5, no. Then we have 6. 6 times 6 is 36. 4 times 9 is 46. I'm sorry, 36. 3 times 12, 2 times 18, and 1 times 36. So these are all the factors of 36. That one has a lot. So let's go back and look. 27, not down here. 9, yes, 9 is down here. So that's going to be our GCF. Divide both sides by 9. 27 divided by 9 is 3. 36 divided by 9 is 4. Okay. All right, last one in the section, 33 over 77. So 33's factors are 1, 3, 11, and 33. And the factors of 77 are 1, 7, 11, and 77. So our GCF here is 11. So if we divide both sides of this fraction by 11, 33 divided by 11 is 3. I know that because 3 times 11 is 33. Remember, division is the opposite of multiplication, so you can do it back and forth. It's a great way to check your work. So 77 divided by 11 is 7, because 7 times 11 gives me 77. So just a little trick to check your work while you're going through all these fractions, okay? So that is the top section completed. All right, let's look at the bottom here. All right, so fill in 5 equivalent fractions for each of the given fractions below. All right, so nothing I really want to highlight in those directions, but I'm making sure that I'm checking exactly what each problem's asking me to do, or each section's asking me to do. All right, so here we just need to come up with equivalent fractions. So this is kind of where you have a little bit of freedom. You can absolutely go through the secret to equivalent fractions, as you should know by now, is that as long as you divide your numerator, or I'm sorry, as long as you multiply your numerator and you multiply your denominator by the same number, you'll end up with an equivalent fraction. Now you can just go ahead and multiply by 2, then multiply by 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Or you could do any number you want. So for the first one, so what I'm trying to say is that you could really have different answers than I'm going to have. I'm going to go through just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this time so that you can see those possible equivalent fractions. But if you chose to multiply by another number, say 10 or 11 or any numbers really, they could still be equivalent, which means you're not wrong. But I'm going to go through just the basics here. Okay, so for the first equivalent fraction, I'm just going to multiply by 2. Okay, so multiply both sides by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10. So 6/10 is an equivalent fraction to 3/5. All right, so now I'm going to go to the next one. And I'm going to multiply by 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, go back to our base fraction, 3/5, and shoot out our arrows again. This time, multiply by 4. Like I said, I'm just going in order 2, 3, 4, but you could be multiplying by any numbers at all, as long as both of them are getting multiplied by the same number. And by both of them, I mean both numbers in your fraction, then you'll get an equivalent fraction. So 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, 12/20. Right. Next, I'll do 5. So 5 times 5, 25. 3 times, oops, I forgot to write it up here. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay. And last, I'll do multiply by 6 on both sides. 5 times 6 is 30. 3 times 6 is 18. So all of these fractions are equivalent to 3/5. Now you could keep going on and on infinity, you know, equivalent fractions never really end. You just have to keep multiplying on and on and on. And that's what I mean by, you may have different answers than what I have here, because you may have chosen to multiply by different numbers, and that's fine. But these are just the basics I wanted to go over. All right, so let's look at number 10. Okay, number 10 is 1/8. So let's do, this time instead of doing all the arrows like I did last time, I'm just gonna set up my line here by writing what I'm multiplying above and below each equal sign. Okay, but I want to make sure that I'm always going back to my base fraction. Okay, I don't want to get confused and start multiplying each denominator together and each numerator. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So 1/8, 8 times 2, 16. 1 times 2 is 2. All right, that's our first equivalent fraction. But now I need to go, instead of making the mistake of saying, okay, now 16 times 3, because that's not going to work. We need to go back to the 8. 8 times 3, 24. And it may help to even just circle as you go so that these look a little bit more separated. Once you circle your equivalent fraction, it's like it's closed up. You can't multiply, do anything to it. So 8 times 3 is 24. 1 times 3 is 3. So this is now closed up, locked. Now let's go back to 8. 8 times 4, 32. 1 times 4, 4. Locked up. Okay. 8 times 5, 40. 1 times 5, 5. Locked up. 8 times 6, 48. 1 times 6, 6. And there you go. Those are some examples of equivalent fractions for 1/8. All right, so let's look down here at the last one, number 11, 5, 6. All right, so this time I'm going to show you what I mean by being able to use any numbers that you want. So you may have gone with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but I'm going to change it up this time. I'm going to have this times 3. I'm going to do this one, let's go with 5. Here, I'll do 8. Remember, as long as both sides are multiplied by the same number, that's all that matters. I'll go times 10 there and 11 here. All right, so let's start back at the beginning here. 6 times 3 is 18. 5 times 3 is 15. 15/18 is an equivalent fraction to 5/6. All right, so now 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 5 is 25. All right, so going back to our base fraction, when I say base fraction, I mean that first fraction that was given to you, that's your base fraction. That's the one you always want to go back to. So 6 times 8 is 48. 5 times 8 is 40. Okay, locked up. 6 times 10 is 60. 5 times 10 is 50. Another equivalent fraction. All right, last one. 6 times 11, 66. 5 times 11, 55. All right, so all equivalent to 5/6. Now, it's very unlikely that you have the same answers that I do down here because I did pick such random numbers to multiply each set by, but I chose to do that just to show you that it really doesn't matter what numbers you use as long as you use them on top and bottom, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and look at the second page. Okay, so now let's make sure we focus back in on the instructions or the directions. So it says fill in the missing numerator or denominator. All right, those seem like important parts to me, so I'm going to highlight them. And let's zoom in on our first problem. So here we have 2/5 equal to 18 blank. We don't know what that is. That's what we need to figure out. It's kind of like the mystery number. So all you need to do is the two numbers that are next to each other, you need to find the connection. Okay, so what is the connection between 2 and 18? You have to use multiplication or division. So it's getting bigger, so it's obviously going to be multiplication. So 2 times what gives me 18? Well, I know that 9 times 2 will give you 18. So 2 times 9, 18. So we have to do multiply by 9 on the bottom too. All right, so 5 times 9, 45. 45 is our mystery number. Okay, this is one of those fraction activities that I feel like once you get the hang of it, it's actually kind of fun to do. You're like a detective. You need to figure out what that mystery number is. All right, so the connection between 9 and 18, again, we're just multiplying by 2. 9 times 2 gives you 18. So then we have to do the same thing on the top. 8 times 2 gives us 16. So 16 is our mystery number. All right. We have 7/24 is equal to blank over 48. So these are the two numbers that are next to each other that we do have, and we need to find the connection. 24 and 48. 24 doubled, okay? 2 doubled is 4, 4 doubled is 8. Oh, so 24 is exactly half of 48, which means all you have to do is multiply by 2. 24 times 2 is 48. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 is our missing number. Okay, 5/7 is equal to 35 over blank. So the connection between 5 and 35 is multiply by 7. The connection between 7 and blank is also multiplying by 7. 7 times 7 is 49. So 49 is our mystery number. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit different. I was going to say a little bit harder, but it's really not harder. It's just different. So now we have the larger fraction on the left, and as you can see, the smaller fraction is on the right. So now, instead of multiplying, we need to find the connection by dividing. 21 divided by what gives you 7? If you know your facts, you should know it's 3. So 21 divided by 3 gives you 7. So you need to do the same thing on the bottom. 36 divided by 3 gives you 12. 12 is your mystery number here. Okay. Same thing here. You just have to find the connection. Since we're going from a bigger number to a smaller number, we're dividing. 24 divided by what gives me 8? Again, it's 3. Dividing by 3. Here we need to divide by 3 as well. So 30 divided by 3 is 10. Okay. Here we have a connection here. And to get from 12 to 1, what are we dividing by? It might take you a second, but it's actually 12. 12 divided by 12 gives you 1. So we have to do the same thing down here. 24 divided by 12 gives you 2, which equals 1/2. Makes sense. 12 is half of 24. So 2 is our mystery number there. And then here we have this. Here we have 25 to 5. What do we have to do? We have to divide by 5. 25 divided by 5 gives you 5. So same thing on the bottom. 50 divided by 5 is 10. 10 is our mystery number here. All right, so that is the top section completed. Now let's look here at the bottom. Our directions say complete the following patterns. Remember to always go back to the base fraction. Base fraction, huge here. This is super important because this is our base fraction, like I talked about in the last equivalent fractions part. This is our base fraction right here. And that's why it has a big square around it, because it's really easy to make a mistake with this pattern activity if you don't go back to your base fraction. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so 3 to 9. What's the connection? Well, 3 times 3 equals 9. So in order to get our mystery number up here, we have to do the same thing. 2 times 3 gives you 6. All right, so now what I mean by the importance of going back to your base number or your base fraction is a lot of people will then take these numbers and try and figure out how to get to the next fraction, but that is not what you want to do. You want to go back to your base fraction. It's almost like pretend that this fraction is no longer there. So 2 to 10, what's the connection there? 2 to 10? times 5. So then we have to do the same thing on the bottom. Okay, 3 times 5, 15. All right, so I'm actually going to use a piece of paper to show you what I mean by covering up those fractions. If you really have a hard time with this, you may even actually want to cover up the fractions that you've already done. So what I mean by that is covering up in order to get the next fraction done. So you want to pretend that one does not exist. Go back to your base fraction and find the connection. Okay, just like what we did up at the top, you're just finding the connection for each one. All right, so let me cover up both of the fractions we just did and look at the next one. Okay, you can kind of still see them, but you get the gist. We're covering it up. So now we're finding the connection between 2/3 and blank over 18. Okay, so 3 times what gives me 18? 3 times 6. So then we have to do the same thing on the top. 2 times 6, 12. 12 is the missing number. All right, and then cover this up. I'm just using Post-its to cover this up so don't get confused. So now I'm working with 2/3 and 14 over blank. So 2 times what gives me 14? 7. So 3 times 7 will give me 21. Okay, so if we take our Post-its away, now we have a full line of missing numbers, all done correctly. And you can see there's no pattern. The first one was times 6, the second one was times 5, the third one was times 6, and then the fourth one was times 7. So there really is no pattern that you can follow. All right, so let's look at the second one, and we're gonna start covering the fractions just from the very beginning here. All right, so we're starting with 3/4. 3/4 is our base fraction. So the connection between 3 and 6 is to multiply by 2. So we need to do the same thing on the bottom. 8. 4 times 2 is 8. All right. Awesome. We got our first mystery number. Now let's cover that up so we don't get confused. Okay. So now we're just working with 3/4 and blank over 16. What's the connection between 4 and 16? Multiply by 4. So we need to multiply by 4 on the top. 3 times 4, 12. 12 is our mystery number there. Okay. So now let's cover up everything we've done so far. And now we're back to just working with 3/4 and 15 over blank. What's the connection between 3 and 15? Multiply by 5. So we have to do the same thing on the bottom. 4 times 5, 20. All right. And then for the very last one, we have 3/4 and blank over 28. So here we go. What's the connection between 4 and 28? Multiply by 7. So do the same thing on the top. 3 times 7 is 21. And there is our mystery number. So again, we pull away our cover up and we have a full pattern. So again, there's really no pattern that you can follow here. We have times 2, times 4, times 5, times 7. So the only way to get all of these blanks filled in is to cover up each fraction and do it one by one. Okay, and then the last one, just gonna adjust, there we go. All right, so our base fraction is 4/5. Our connection between 5 and 15, 3. 5 times 3 gives me 15, so let's do the same thing on the top. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 is our first mystery number. Okay, cover that up. What's our connection between 4 and 24? 6. 4 times 6 is 24. Do the same thing on the bottom. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 is our second mystery number. Okay. Now we have blank over 35. So what's our connection between 5 and 35? Times 7. Do the same thing on the top. 4 times 7, 28. Okay. And then our very last one, connection between 4 and 40, that's easy, times 10. So do the same thing on the bottom. 50 times 10 is 50. 50 is our last mystery number. So now we pull away the paper we used to cover it up, and we have our full pattern there. Okay? All right, let's move on to the third page. All right, so page 3, for this one, we're starting with changing mixed numbers into improper fractions. So let's just jump right in and get started. I'm going to start with number 23. All right, so when we're changing mixed numbers into improper fractions, this is where we're using that circular method, right? So we're going 1 times 4 is 4, 4 plus 1 is 5. So 1 times 4 is 4, 4 plus 1 is 5. So 5 is our new numerator, and our denominator stays the same. Okay? See, circular method. Okay. All right. 2 times 8 is 16, and 16 plus 6 is 22. So 22 is our new denominator, and 8 comes over as our 22 is our new numerator, 8 comes over as our denominator. All right. Next one. 1 times 8 is 8. 8 plus 7 is 15. Bring over our denominator. Okay, so once again, 1 times 8 was 8, and then 8 plus 7 is 15. So then you kind of carry it over here. If I want to keep my arrows going, boop, boop, over. There you go. You like the sound effects? Okay. So let's do that one more time. Here we have 4 times 4, 16, and then 16 plus 3. 16 plus 3 is 19. 19 is our numerator, 4 is our denominator. 5 times 7 is 35, and 35 plus 2 is 37. And then we bring over 7 as our denominator. Six times 3 is 18. 18 plus 2 is 20. And there you have it. That's the top section. Changing mixed numbers into improper fractions. All right, so let's go down to the second section. Here we are kind of doing the opposite. We're taking improper fractions and we're turning them into mixed numbers. All right, so one at a time here. Okay, so this is the method where you want to change this improper fraction into a whole number and then a proper fraction or a mixed number. So we need to draw our division bracket here, division bar, and put that numerator inside. Now do some simple division. 5 goes into 12 how many times? Well, twice. 5 times 2 is 10. We subtract, and we get 2 as our remainder. So now we're going to circle our top number, our remainder, and then our 5 over here, which was our old denominator. Remember, the top number is the king number, so he is the whole number, that 2. Then we're going to bring over our remainder as the numerator, and 5 comes over as our denominator. Okay, let's look at number 30. 7 goes into 23 3 times. 7 times 3 is 21. Subtract and you get 2. Circle, circle, circle. 3 is our king. He's on the top. Our remainder is our numerator, and 7 comes over as our denominator. Okay, number 31. Pull our numerator into the division bar, and then 2 goes into 15 7 times. 2 times 7 is 14. Subtract and get 1. So now we have, these are our 3 numbers. 7's our king, he's on the top. 1 is our numerator, and 2 is our denominator, 7.5. Okay. number 32. Pull 35 into the division bracket. 6 goes into 35. Well, I know 6 times 6 is 36, so we're going to have to go down 1. 6 times 5. 6 times 5 is 30. I subtract and I get 5. 1, 2, 3. 5's our king. 5's our remainder, that's our numerator, and 6 is our denominator. Remember, if I'm going fast, you can always pause, rewind, watch these over again. I just want to get through them so you can check all your answers. So let's set up our division bar, put the 41 inside, okay? Now that 41's not there anymore, it's down here. So 4 goes into 41 10 times. 4 times 10 is 40. We have a remainder. 1, 2, 3. 10 is our king. And then 1/4 is our fractional part of our mixed number here. Okay. 1, 4. I don't know if that helped at all. It's probably confusing you. Okay. Last one. Pull that 52 into the division, under the division bar. 7 goes into 52 7 times, because 7 times 7 is 49. Then we're going to have a remainder. So 52 minus 49, you got to pull 1 from that 5. Now we have 12. 12 minus 9 is 3. 1, 2, 3. 7 is our king. 3, our remainder, is now our numerator, and then we'll pull that 7 over for our denominator. Okay, so that is the second section, changing improper fractions into mixed numbers. All right, so now we are on to the last page. Okay, so this is all about number lines. So place the fractions on each number line in the correct spot. So the hardest part about this, or at least the most important part about this, is spacing out your number line correctly. Which, in order to do, you have to look at what fractions you have to place. So in this case, we are placing 1/6, 2/6, and 5/6. So we need to cut this into sixths, or 6 parts. So if you remember from the number line video, if our denominator is 6 and we need 6 parts, we actually need to draw 5 lines. And 6 is an even number, so we get to cut it in half first, which is my favorite thing. So cut it in half, and then in order to turn this into a number line in 6, we just have to put 3 parts on this side, 3 parts on this side. So that is a number line cut into 6. So I like to label each one so I know exactly which ones I need to keep on there. So 1/6, 2/6, 5/6. There you go. Those are the correct placements, so your placement should be around those places. All right, so here we're working with 2/8, 6/8, 8/8, so that means we need to cut it into eighths. Again, even number, so we can start by cutting it directly in half. We need 8 parts, so in each half we need 4. 4 and 4. So here we are going to draw 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we should have 8 parts. So let's just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. So this is 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, or 1/2, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and then technically 1 would be 8/8, right? All right, so what do we have to place? 2/8, 6/8, and 8/8 right here. So the spots you should have marked are here, here, and here, right about those areas, okay? All right, let's look at number 37. So 1/3, 1 1/3, and 1 2/3. So I can tell that my number line is ending on a 2. So the first thing I always do, remember, is cut it in half and mark 1. So this is 1 hole, this is 2 holes. And now it looks like we need to cut each hole into thirds. So if we're cutting into thirds, that means we need to be drawing 2 lines. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm gonna label each of these tick marks, 1/3, 2/3, then there's 1. Then this will be 1 and 1/3, and this will be 1 and 2/3. Okay, so let's just circle the ones that we had to place. 1/3 right here, 1 and 1/3 right here, and 1 and 2/3 right here. Okay, so these should be about where you have your fractions placed. All right, number 38. So we have 1/4, 1/2, and 1 1/4. Again, we're going from 0 to 2, so mark off your 1 right in the middle there. And then we need to cut each section into fourths. All right, so if we're cutting into fourths, we need to draw 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Okay, so this is 1/4 or 1/4. This is 2/4 or 1/2. 3/4, and then 1. Then we have 1 and 1/4. It's almost like you just start the pattern over again, but you add a 1 to it. 1 and 2/4, or 1 and 1/2. Same thing. And then 1 and 3/4. Okay, so 1/4 we want to mark, so that's right there. 1/2, which is the same as 2/4, we're going to mark right there. And then 1 and 1/4 mark right here. So these should be about where you have your fraction or your number line marked. Okay, 2 more. Okay, number 39, we have tenths, and we're going from 0 to 2. All right, so always make sure you look at where your number line's ending, because that can trick you sometimes. 0 to 2, we mark in the middle first, and this is going to be 1. But you'll notice that the fractions we're placing, none of them have a 1 in front of them. None of them are a mixed number. So actually, we're only going to be working on this side of the number line. It's only going to be from 0 to 1. All right, so that was a little trick. You just got to make sure you keep that in mind. So now we need to go from here to here and cut in tenths. All right, so 10 is an even number, so I'm going to start by marking the middle. And now we need 5 sections here and 5 sections here to equal 10 altogether. Okay, so this is our big middle mark here. Okay, so 5 over here, 5 over here, that means I need 4 lines. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, not bad. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, good. 10 sections. So instead of writing every single fraction here, because that's going to take up a lot of room, you can absolutely do that. And if you did, that was a great strategy, but I'm not going to. I'm actually just going to count out the tick marks. So this is 1/10, 2/10, 3/10. Right here. 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10. Right here. And then 8/10 right next to it. So these should be the 3 marks you have on your number line. All right, if you did that one wrong, you didn't notice that your number line ended in a 2 and you need to go back and fix it, I would erase what you have and then go back and fix that, because you want to be prepared for your quiz to make sure you know exactly how to do that. All right, so last one. Here we have 2 9ths, 5 9ths, and 8 9ths, and we're going from 0 to 1. So good, we have this whole number line to work with, but we have to break our line into 9 sections. Okay, so that means we need 8 lines. When I'm working with an odd number, sometimes I will kind of try and find the middle and mark that lightly. Okay, so that would be 1 section. And now we need to have 9 altogether. So these are 2 lines, and we're going to have 8 lines altogether. So now we need 6 more. 3 on this side, 3 on this side. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and let's just check and make sure our sections are right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. Okay. So 2/9 would be right here, 1/9, 2/9, 3/9, 4/9, 5/9, 6/9, 7/9, 8/9 right there. Okay, so that should be around the sections where you have your fractions marked off, okay? All right, so hopefully this review was helpful for you. If you have any questions at all, please ask me. All right, remember you can rewind, pause this video whenever you need to, but good luck.